Hey everyone, it's me, Arden Lee. I am back with another video, and today's topic is another request from one of the members of the Repatterning Parlor who asked the question, what is the difference between feeling hurt and taking things personally? And I love this question. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to dive into my thoughts on this because we're so often told not to take things personally. But what does that mean, and how does it relate to the emotions that may come up around for us around being hurt? Before I dive into that, I'd love to remind everyone that I am currently enrolling for the winter 2020 session of the Repatterning Project. We start January 26th. And so if you've been enjoying these videos and this kind of content and you feel like you're ready to dive into that full 8-week container and do this process from start to finish, then I would love to hop on a chat with you. So go ahead and shoot me a PM and let's talk about whether now is the right time for you to do the dive into this work that's absolutely going to change all the ways that you interface with the external world around you by reprogramming those imprints left from trauma, from early childhood, from formative relationships, social conditioning, from the economy. That's part of it too, right? all the externals that we deal with in the world. How can we take back our creative control, our sovereignty, and start making our choices from a deliberate place of conscious awareness? So definitely reach out to me if that sounds like your jam. And now let's get to the topic, which is what's the difference between feeling hurt and taking things personally? This is so great because never take anything personally is one of the 4 agreements, right? Really great, terrific book. I haven't read the whole thing, but the principles of the 4 agreements are great, and those who apply them, I really see them making strides in taking responsibility for their lives. Never take anything personally. What does that mean, right? How are we supposed to not take things personally when they're hurtful? Essentially, the difference between feeling hurt and taking something personally just because it hurts is making the harm that happened, making a story around it in our heads that's somehow a reflection of us. To take something personally is to interpret an offense or harm or an insult as a reflection of who we are, right? You see people get mad sometimes if, like, just for example, let's say, let's say there's a wealthy and super self-important businessman whose airline ticket somehow gets messed with. He checks into the airport and, oh my gosh, we overbooked the flight. We don't know what to do for you. And immediately he launches into, don't you know who I am? Don't you know where I have to be? And really, the truth is, yeah, it's a situation. The airline made a mistake in overbooking the flight, but it's not a reflection on this person, right? He's immediately going to start to think, well, if you overbook the flight, who's the other person who's getting my seat? Why do you think they're more important than I am, right? It becomes a reflection, and it becomes a story that it's a reflection on ourselves, and it begins to chip away at our self-image, right? Or threaten to chip away at our self-image in a way that causes us to feel defensive and maybe even go on the offense, right? That's how we get into, like, don't you know who I am, right? And all those things. Similarly, let's say we're in a relationship and someone breaks up with us and we take it personally when we think like, oh, this has something to do with my worth as a person. This means I'm not attractive enough. This means that I'm not good enough as I am. And while it's always helpful to look at feedback and to look at, like, the things that are under our control and where we can maybe make changes and adjustments to get better results, the effect of overdoing that to the point of self-blame, I can speak a lot on that. If you take that path to its logical conclusion, you will end up becoming a pickup artist who writes books on methodologies about how to get people attracted to you, right? I already did that, so I did it for you. You don't have to go there. Because we believe that someone's acceptance or rejection of us is a judgment on our own worth, right? That's taking that personally. Now, maybe we have a breakup and we recognize that there's nothing wrong with us, but this person is simply not in the place where they can handle the level of relationship that we want, right? Or this person simply doesn't feel the same way about our connection that we do. And that sucks and it will hurt. And those feelings of hurt are natural. Just like the way that if you arrive at the airport and you find out that your flight has been overbooked, your anger would be natural, right? But the difference is you understand that it's not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of who you are. Someone breaks up with you, you know, yeah, sure. In maybe some cases, it's because there's harm that you're unconsciously perpetrating. I'm not saying that we should never do any self-reflection, any self-examination, right? But even then, it's not necessarily about us or our worth or our quality. It's about the actions that we're taking or the way that we chose to cope with situations that maybe ended up being unhealthy for the relationship, right? That's a great reflection to do. But if we're going to internalize it and we're going to say, oh no, this means that I'm worthless, this means that I'm bad, this means that I'm wrong, or my sense of ego is threatened, don't you know who I am? Don't you know how important I am? If you don't know how important I am, then it's threatening to my feelings of my own self-importance, right? You would never see the Dalai Lama going up to the airport kiosk and saying, don't you know who I am, right? Even though he's the Dalai Lama, right? But he's so confident in who he is and that it's like, I'm assuming. I've never met him personally, but you get the sense that someone who is not operating from that sense of a fragile ego, which means a fragile sense of self, which means a sense of self that can be threatened by a flight being overbooked at an airport, you can understand how, he'd be like, oh, that's inconvenient. This is going to have to be solved somehow, one way or the other, or else I'm just going to have to wait for another flight, or maybe I've got a keynote and I've got to address a lot of people, so maybe I'm going to explain that to the person and see what happens, or maybe I'm going to call and I'm going to postpone my speech. Whatever it is, it gets to be dealt with, but it's not seen as an attack on the sense of self. That to me is what it means to take something personally. When I view another person's mistakes or failures or shortcomings or actions or decisions as a reflection on me and my value. It's not always easy because sometimes we see people and they're choosing other things. They're choosing other priorities. And we want to say, why are you choosing that and not me? It must be because you don't like me as much. And if you don't like me as much, then I must not be as valuable as that other person or other situation. And that's simply not true. First of all, it could mean that you're just not a compatible match to that situation, and that's possible. And no, that's not even a reflection on you. It's like it's two puzzle pieces that don't fit, right? It's not about you not being enough. It's just it's not a fit, right? And maybe you're denying the part of reality that is looking at the other piece of that puzzle and understanding that it's not a fit for you, right? Or in some cases, I can say this because I've gotten to a place where I'm pretty confident in my self-worth. And I can look at people that I've known in my life who are choosing situations and people that are having a far less healthy effect on them, that they're choosing out of the comfort of stasis, Sometimes people will choose their unhealthy patterns because they're comfortable and they're familiar and they've been doing them for a long time. And I can look at that and I can say, that hurts, but it's absolutely not a reflection on me. If anything, it's a positive reflection on me because I'm not going to be in your unhealthy thing that you're so used to. I'm going to do something different. And if you're not in a place to choose that right now, oh well, right? So essentially that's what I believe it means to not take anything personally, is that we're allowed to feel hurt. We're allowed to have whatever emotions come up for us. And in fact, it's positive that we feel those emotions, right? Because the anger that we might feel at our flight being overbooked might translate to, well, I don't want to give my money to an airline that's so irresponsible with their bookings. I'm going to choose something different next time I book my flight. And that relationship with that person or that friendship with that person where, you know, they chose maybe an unhealthy situation that they were familiar with over continuing to explore with you, then you might look at that and say, that's sad. I feel hurt that they made that decision. But I'm going to feel this emotion and I'm going to understand what it's telling me. And it's telling me to actually go where I'm more aligned, right? Either they'll catch up or they won't. And it's whatever. So the problem with taking things personally is that you make that emotion a part of your identity, right? You make it, I'm sad because I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, so therefore I'm sad. And every day I wake up and I repeat that thought to myself. They rejected me, so I'm not good enough and I have to be better, right? And then, like I said, you end up on that hamster wheel where you're constantly making all these adjustments for nothing, for the opinions of people who are not in alignment with who you really are. So let me save you a click. You don't want to do that. You want to allow people to make their decisions even if they make you sad. You want to allow airlines to deal with their bookings incompetently, understanding that it doesn't mean anything about you, right? Maybe you choose something different next time, like I said. But it's about the peace that comes with letting everyone do what they're going to do and understanding that it doesn't mean anything about you except when you're choosing that connection, right? Your own choices are a reflection on you. The way that you respond to that is a reflection on you. If you continue choosing a friendship or relationship with someone where they're making you feel bad, then that choice is a reflection on you. But their actions are a reflection on them. So that is the difference between feeling the natural emotions of hurt or sadness or anger that are going to come up naturally in response to people making decisions that disappoint you. But it's not a reflection on you. And that is the difference. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope I see you in the repatterning project, because this is a great point, a great little sort of thin slice of some of what we do, right? So hopefully I would love to see you there. Reach out to me, and in the meantime, I hope this is helpful.